reserves and all that kind of stuff from Russia going
Yeah.
to Europe, blah, blah, blah. So, of course, supply demand, so they raise prices even though our oil, you know, we got lots from Alberta. It doesn't have anything to do with the war, but any excuse they have,
Yeah.
raise it. So $2 a liter, come on. I put
Too much,
I put $100 into this thing, and I only get half a tank.
That's
That it's a big tank in this truck, right?
yeah.
It's not a fuel efficient vehicle. It would cost me over $200 to fill this thing up. It's ridiculous. So
Yeah, it's crazy.
I have to. I still have to drive it once a week just to kind of keep it going. So this will be my ride to church and back, and that's it.
Mhm. You know?
It sits. My
Yeah.
wife says maybe you should just use the truck just for like, you know, home use and nothing else. I said, well, then we're not going to use it until spring and summer, and then that's it. So I gotta drive it just to kind of keep her going.
Yeah. Well, you know, the story of Joseph, it speaks of the time where money failed.
Yeah.
Do you think we're heading that way?
Yeah, of course.
Where money will fail?
Well, what's on the coin, right? Whose inscription is on this coin?
Caesar.
So anything that made of man fails.
Right.
So it comes to a time when, I mean, that's Revelation. We're studying Revelation 18,
Yeah.
and everything, the merchants, the ships, the shipbuilders, you know, any of the textiles, like all the stuff that he lists there,
Yeah.
fails. They'll throw their silver and their gold in the streets because there'll be no more value. So
Yeah.
there's only value in things when people place value on it, you know?
When they agree.
Yeah.
That's how money works, really, right?
It really is. So we agree this has a value to it.
Right.
You could have, you know, dried beans and do that. And each dried bean has a value.
Right.
And everybody agrees there's your currency, the dried beans. So if you have beans, and back in the days, you know, Abraham's days,
Yeah.
Lot's days, there was the sheep and the goats. It was their cattle.
Right.
That was basically their assets.
Mhm.
So when they traded, and you know, it was on their livestock and stuff.
Yeah.
Now they had silver. Remember when they went
Silver.
into Egypt? They brought the silver in order to buy the wheat, to buy the corn.
But now we don't use silver. Really, we use something else.
Well, it's a currency,
Yeah.
right?
Currency.
I mean, you can invest in silver and all that kind of stuff.
Same story with Bitcoin, right? It's all about agreement. So
It
if
exactly is. Bitcoin is nothing unless a whole bunch of people
Are
say
these
it
strikes?
is. Right? So here we go. Freedom.
Freedom, eh?
Absolutely. Freedom. But what kind of freedom? That's the thing.
Yeah.
Because even Putin is saying freedom.
Exactly. Everybody seems to have that cry. Freedom.
So what is Putin's comment is we have to liberate Ukraine from their oppressors,
Yeah.
which is propaganda, which is ridiculous. There's no genocide, which he claims. And
Right.
also, the second one this week was we have to attack Ukraine, otherwise they will attack us. Now that is a David and Goliath story.
Yeah.
Because the Ukraine is so small
Survival for the fittest.
in every respect to
Militarily, everything.
Russians' might.
Yeah.
They even got nuclear weapons,
Right.
you know, and large amounts of nuclear weapons. So, and their missiles, you know, they can crank out, you know, what is this? Those, I forget what they're called, but they have like magazines of missiles, and they can crank 40 in this short space of time. So they could just cause total devastation. There's no way that statement is correct. So
crazy.
It
And
is.
there's a weapon actually
again,
called
propaganda.
There's a weapon called Satan 2.
Yes. Yes.
Why
so
that name?
that shows the spirit, and that was the clip that my wife was showing on What's Up to the Church.
Yeah, I was watching
That was the Russian pastor or the Ukrainian pastor from Duncan Church.
Yeah, I should put that video in the
And-
description. People should watch it.
Yeah, and she. And he was interviewing his friend in the Ukraine, so you're getting firsthand news.
Right, and
Of what was
testimonies
going
too.
Yes, and you know, when you saw it, it's like crazy. Like,
Yeah.
you're just killing innocent people. Like, you're not even attacking military bases and stuff like that. You are attacking downtown cores, you know, you're
Yeah.
attacking cities. You're attacking universities. Like,
And hospitals too.
this is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, this to me are war crimes. and he should be tried upon that. There's an actual thing called war crimes according to the UN. So, you know, it's yeah. So every step of this, okay, you see, is basically one step closer of the West getting involved. Okay, and they don't want to get involved, and the idea is they don't want to get involved is because they don't want to start a World War III.
Right.
Because if they get involved, then he will attack Europe. He'll have justification to attack Europe.
And then
he'll say you are on the offensive, so I'm going to retaliate.
Right. Defend myself.
Defend myself. You see how this theme keeps
the
coming
arguments,
out?
yeah. Defense.
And as we spoke last week, Revelation chapter 12, right?
Yeah.
He's just defending and justifying his means. And so it's the same argument, and so as we said, like, it just cycles. And so we're getting this closer and closer to when we see the second coming of Christ, when it ends it all.
Yeah.
It's like the final push. So what happens out of all this, right? Well, you got all these sanctions, as Robert said.
Yeah.
You see the power of countries just to shut you down. Right? So whatever assets you have can be gone in a second.
In a second, eh?
Just a flick of a switch. So here's the thing. Who are we in that as Advents?
Yeah.
As you notice that Pastor was saying, there are the Ukrainian people, Seventh-day Adventist Ukrainian people.
Yeah.
You know, we non-combative, right? We're non-combative when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the people are so angry, especially on the eastern side, that if you tell them that you are non-combative, I want to help, but in a non-combative role,
they won't agree.
They're going to beat you up.
It's like,
because it's like, why won't you fight for your country type thing, right? Fight. So
and
they're
I
very
hear
upset.
that they're not allowing men to leave the country. They have to fight.
Yeah,
I hear that too.
you know, so you can see how control and a pressure. It's called a paradigm shift. Everyone lived together in peace, and now all of a sudden there's war, not even against the other side, but against inside your own house, inside your own ranks.
Right.
Okay, prophetic. You know, mother shall rise against father against the son, mother against the daughter. Right?
That's so true.
Enemies shall be they of your own household.
For the sake of the gospel and the principles.
Exactly. When your principles are not the same principles
as theirs,
because ours are godly, theirs is combative, it's retaliation, and it makes total sense on a human nature. These guys are coming into your country,
right,
and they are killing your people, and your automatic reaction is to fight back,
right? Absolutely.
But in the eyes of God, it's not the godly way, it's not the Christian way, and that's an offense. That's an offense. And I get it, but that's how God does it, right?
Right.
And like
unless God tells us, like He did in the Old Testament, but that's
like
a different,
Moses and Joshua
that's a different
leading
story.
the army.
Exactly. Exactly, right? There was that time, but that was what do you call it? A theocracy. So they were under
God was the king.
God was their king, and we don't have that anymore, right? We don't have that theocracy.
We want to be like the rest of the world.
Exactly. We lost that. And so now, but we're still based on godly principles but God will deal with it. You know, He can stop the missiles. Like, He can do all these things. And so really it's about the godly principles, just praying and praying that God intercedes, and having Him as the one that says, you know, I will vengeance is mine, thus saith the Lord. And let Him do His part. Very hard when it's easy when you're in a truck, you know, in a nice sunny day going to church. It's easy to say this stuff, but not when you're in the Ukraine, Kiev, and some of those cities that are just being attacked, and you're saying this to the people. They're just going to stone you. Right. So I want to say that in order to bring compassion to this whole matter, because I get it. I was like, you know, oh, the people that are, you know, fighting the war right now, they're evil. No, it's the way it is. But there's a better way, and the better way always has to be the godly way. Always has to be the godly way, and it's hard, and it's just, it really means you're going to lose your life. Right? It really means you're going to lose your life, but you'll lose your life being on the front lines too.
Either way.
Like, you just lay down your arms. I don't know, and just let God intercede. I mean, and God has done that. God has done that with leading the Egyptians out of Egypt. Sorry, the Israelites out of Egypt. He had to get the Egypt out of the Israelites, mind you.
Oh yeah, true that. Later,
Yeah.
right?
But you know, the walls coming down in Joshua, you know, Jericho. I mean, it's all God, right?
All they had to do was march around.
Yeah.
Obey, right? Obedience. Wow.
And you look at the Roman Empire and how many martyrs there were because of the Christian faith. Right? They didn't fight.
If they fought, it would be a different story.
Yeah, because I mean, by not fighting, I'm going to say this: there were certain Roman soldiers that were converted.
Because they saw the influence.
If Christ had fought even on the cross, what would the Roman soldier have done? That was, you know, he got converted. He got converted because he said, "Truly, this is the Son of God."
So war does not win hearts. War does not
it doesn't.
convert.
It doesn't.
It doesn't, and there's somewhere where it even says that war actually excites the worst passions
Oh, absolutely.
in humans, and like I've seen this, at least I've heard of it with even like my own country where my parents come from, where you'd have even people who were like married, like husband and wife, totally just turn against each other. And it's usually like the main thing that leads people to commit the worst acts is always out of fear. Fear is the drive, and then fear tends into hatred.
Yeah.
Hatred leads to malice, and then you get the worst crimes that ever happen in this world. And I think the only way to counteract that is through love.
Yeah.
Which is not at all human and only divine.
Isn't that what the great controversy is all about? Misrepresentation of God's character, and that's why so many people have turned against God, because they see God in a bad way.
In a bad way, and then they fear him, and then they hate him.
They hate him, and it goes down, and that's what the devil did in Revelation 12, right? That was his template. And let's see if this guy makes this turn without taking out my truck. What a good driver. I hand it to those guys. They know what they're doing. I think they took a course.
They must have, right?
And that's a classic example of knowledge, knowing how to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, breeds the success of making that turn. So if we have the correct knowledge of God,
then
we will have that peace, right? We'll have that experience. But if we don't have the right knowledge of God, I mean, let's face it, you know, you talk about wars. There were religious wars, okay? The Catholic Church used the name of Christ to kill Muslims,
They did.
to kill anybody the martyrs, the Protestants.
And vice versa too.
Yes, right? I mean, in the name of God, in the name of Allah, people have died.
Right.
And that's the misrepresentation of God.
Yeah.
Now people say, well, what about the Old Testament? Everybody always brings that up.
Yeah.
Well, that's a bigger story, because that is, in a sense, you're looking at the judgment scene.
In action. The vengeance of God.
Everything, remember I said, everything cycles. But now the last judgment scene is the one that we are quickly approaching, the second coming. That's the ultimate judgment scene, because after that there's no more.
Right.
Okay. That guy was pretty courageous to jump in front of my truck like that. He lost 5 pounds running across the street. I'm like, I don't know what you're doing, but that's flirting with danger. That's another sermon, but
yeah. Right.
What was I saying? I forgot now. The guy.
So the Old Testament vengeance.
Oh yeah. Because look at all the, you know, the Amorites, the Amalekites, and everybody that got, you know, wiped from the Israelite army because God said so.
Yeah.
But when you read more into it, you see that those countries and those people were past the point of probation, right? So they had been given the time, they'd been given the opportunities, but it was a point where it was so bad that they were sacrificing their own children, you know, to the Molech gods and so forth. And so he had to stop. He had to stop it. It was getting so bad they were going to just destroy each other. And so, and I think that's where we're at in our own culture. I mean, you know, this is where we see all these things unfolding. It's just signs. So, but remember what I said. You said, "Oh, are we heading to somewhere where the money doesn't mean anything?" And it's like, because remember we had pandemic, then we had First World War, Great Depression. So people will lose assets. People will lose value. People will lose what they had before. And this is something that's out there right now called the Great Reset, right? Which a lot of people are on board with.
What is that about?
Well, basically, that's about, hey, that's like returning to socialism or communism, if you want to call it that.
Okay.
Where if I have $50 in the bank, no, let's say I have $100 in the bank, and you have $10,000 in the bank,
Yeah.
after the Great Reset, we'll all have
The same amount.
zero. We'll all have $100 in the bank. Okay?
Yeah, and it's so interesting. Because
So it's socialism. That's communism. That's like everybody has the same.
You
Yeah.
share
The Great
everything.
Reset. Exactly.
Ah.
You share. So
sharing resources.
your lawnmower is my lawnmower, is his lawnmower, and basically it.
So this will be my truck.
This will be your truck. Yeah.
That's so interesting.
So it's
because,
leveling. It's just a great reset. It's turning the entire economic forum back to zero.
Does that work?
It's communism.
it can work actually, because what's the main people that
It's
are
the
pushing
social. This is Stalin right here.
No. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's good.
It can work.
I'm not saying it's good, but I'm saying it's going to be implemented, because the main people that are pushing it forward is the World Economic Forum,
Yeah,
and
it-
they like
they're
the
bankrupt.
leader, I think his name is Schwab or something like that. He say that like
You even know them.
the presidents, most of the presidents that are like leading right now all over the world were taught like in that school of thought.
Yeah.
Basically, so the World Economic Forum, they have a group called Young Global Leaders, and the person was literally saying, in a way of like just proud of themselves. They were saying that presidents like Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister, even Putin himself and others
They went to the same school?
went through that same course. It's like a
Whoa.
5-year or whatever course.
So these guys are playing a game
and
then.
he literally
Absolutely,
said
it's all
they've
set up.
infiltrated cabinets and everything. They have people everywhere.
What if this was a scene in a movie, like a drama?
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, the prince of this world, right?
Right.
All these
He rules all
kingdoms
the kings
I
of the
have,
earth.
I can give to you. So
Ah.
we know that. We know that this is being run. I mean, whose inscription is on that coin?
Yeah.
You know, God doesn't set this stuff up. It's not of God's way.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, all this stuff. So they're just going to do whatever. So here's the key point, though. Okay.
Yeah.
So what is my point? Because
Uh,
I think if we're more worried about Great Reset and stuff like that, and all the money and all that kind of stuff, then are we not, and I leave it on this point
uh-huh.
to discuss amongst yourselves, are we not therefore the same as Lot's wife turning back? Because that's what we're worried about.
Right. The
Instead of
things, the
moving
material
forward,
things.
Instead of moving forward like Lot,
And worry
and getting
about
out of Sodom and Gomorrah to the Holy Land, which of course for him was the mountains at the time, but you
Right.
know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah,
It's to get out of this, to get out of, you know, my redemption draweth nigh, right?
Right.
Prepare
As you
yourselves,
see the
my
sign.
redemption draweth nigh.
So
So that whole scenario, should we not be focusing forward instead of looking back to what we're about to lose?
Huh.
That is very
That's
true.
the key point.
Revelation 18, come out of Babylon, right?
Yes, not
My
come out.
people.
And when you come out of Babylon,
You don't worry about
don't
everything.
look back.
Don't look back.
Don't
Alright.
look back and see what you're gonna miss. You know, that's the biggest threat.
Wow.
Christian, is the turning back, is looking over your shoulder back to what you're about to lose.
Uh-huh.
Because what you're losing is material stuff, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I say we gotta have a who cares attitude.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta be able to turn your back on all the stuff that you have, even that camera. You gotta
Okay.
leave it behind, right?
But then if I leave it behind, how are we going to record this?
You can't. We'll just God will find a way.
Another way, right?
God will have a drone come out of the sky,
I see.
and He will allow people to see things, right? And that's
Yeah.
the thing. We just have to rely on God. Our bread and our water shall be sure, He says, right?
Right.
So isn't that an interesting point? What is
No need
needed
to
for
worry.
us to survive is God, bread and water. The bread of life. The
His
water,
word.
right? Drink of the well, you will not thirst again.
The Holy
Him.
Spirit.
It's Jesus
It's
Christ.
him, right?
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for
All right.
watching. See you next time.
See you next time.